Hello, podcast lovers. Thank you so much for coming back. I'm your host, Jana. And today it's so wonderful because I've met this fantastic human being at a wonderful networking event. She is, in my opinion, my idol when it comes to podcasting. I just told her to. I'm so such an admirer of her work and how she carries herself. And we had several personal conversations when we have met first, and I felt like there was an immediate click between us. And when we dove a little bit deeper, we found out that actually we experienced very similar things when it comes to hitting your 40s, that 40 twist. And this is actually going to be our topic today. But, first of all, Pearl, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you for taking time out of your so busy schedule. Thank you for sharing your truth on my platform with me. And hello and welcome.
Thank you, Jana. You are a beautiful soul. The moment I met you, I'm all about energy. And I just feel like your energy was so positive and so magnetic. And I just felt like we had this connection. So I'm so glad we're collaborating. This is wonderful.
Yes, I could not agree with you more. Absolutely. And I actually want to actually jump right in because I'm so excited for this conversation. I wanna go back a little bit when we both, hit that big 4-0, and I wanna
Fun.
give you, yeah, right. And I actually really it is fun. I feel like once you master the actual creation of what it can really be, it actually is fun. But getting there obviously sometimes has so many struggles and so many hurdles that we never think about in our 20s. We never think about in our 30s. We never imagine that once we hit a specific age, some natural wall will just be either created or broken down. So today I kind of want to talk to you about that. And I want you to take us back a little bit when it was time for you, when you celebrated your 40th birthday. And I know the story and it really touched me in all honesty, but I want to give you the floor and really allow you to speak on how was that. So when you go back to your birthday, that day of that party, and yeah, walk us through it. What was that?
Okay. So let me just create the picture for you. I was really excited. I wanted to have this big 40th birthday party bash. So I, was working really hard, working out, making sure that I was training and having the perfect dress. So fast forward, I have this amazing party. And then after the party, I felt really exhausted. And I was like, okay, it's just the aftermath. But it was like a week later and another week and another. And as months went by, I just didn't feel like myself. I know there was a little fear in me within me. Now when I think back, is that it was the moment of clarity that I realized all three of my kids were growing up really fast and they didn't need me the same way that they needed me before. And my kids were part of my identity. I guess they were really part of my entire identity, being a wife and a mom. So when you hit that midlife, it kind of shakes you up. It's kind of like, wait, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, now I'm in the middle of my life. Now what? Like these kids are going to grow up and leave. They're going to have their own life and I'm just going to be kind of just the wife, but I just need something more. And I felt like if I ever expressed that to people, I would just be hit with like guilt and shame of like, you have no gratitude. Like, you live in this amazing house, you have a great husband, your kids are healthy. And so I was too afraid to talk about it. So I would really keep that inside that, oh, it's okay. Like, I don't need more. I'm okay. I need to just be happy and satisfied. I think throughout, those things kind of took over my body, those feelings that I was bearing, because what ended up happening is after months of having a lot of pain, I finally made it to the doctor's office. And my doctor was like, oh, it looks like you have a lot of, menopausal symptoms. I was like, what? I just had like a birthday party like a month ago. And so it really shocked me. I just felt like I was like expired. Like someone just stamped my forehead and said, okay, like next, like you're expired. And so
Mhm.
that kind of, and it was just like one thing after another. I ignored it. I was like, no, 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 whatever. So I went back with my life. And then things kind of got worse because, you know, we are as women, we kind of bury and they're like, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then there was this one turning point in my life where my daughter, she's a dancer, my middle daughter, she was doing a Christmas recital and I was doing her bun and someone else. And literally I did like 20 buns. And then you know, she went on stage and all of a sudden, I just felt like a side of my body, I wasn't able to move it. I don't know if I was like, am I having a stroke? What is happening? So it started off with like my right arm, my right hip, my collarbone. I don't even know how I
Mhm.
drove home. You know, it was just one of those moments. I remember when I got home and when my kids were out of sight, I told my husband, I go, I don't know if I had a stroke. Something is wrong with me. And of course, it's the holiday season, and that's the time where we had planned a trip with some friends to Colombia. All the doctor's offices are closed, so you can't do anything. You have to wait. And so with medication, I kind of dragged myself to Colombia. And again, I pretended everything was fine for the sake of my friends, my family. You know, so if you see all the pictures, I'm smiling, doing all that, like I'm fine, no worries. And so eventually, when I came back, I was like, something is definitely wrong. And that just led me on this whole journey of rheumatologists, neurologists, where it was like, you have an autoimmune, you have fibromyalgia. And they just wanted to kind of give me medication, you know, like antidepressants or this for your pain and that. And just, you need to rest, you need to just slow down. And I just felt like I was just being told like to disappear, like silently, like just take the medication and stop complaining about it. And that was really my transformation where I just said no. Like I know something is wrong within me. No medication is going to solve it. I need to solve me, myself. And that led me on this whole journey of I need to start listening to myself. I need to start prioritizing myself. And I started doing you know, my hot yoga even though I had pain. I wore braces and I looked ridiculous, but I was like, this is what my body needs. I know what my body needs. And I would go on long walks and read a lot of self-help books and started like a book, like a soulful book club with a friend that really understood me. And I didn't feel judged by her about like all this thoughts in my head. And that's really when I decided, when I started feeling better. And a year later, when I went after my 41st birthday, and the doctor was like, I did the tests and I had no symptoms. I was fine. So the doctor was so confused. She was like, there must have been something wrong with the blood work, like trying to, you know, say like, oh, there was some paperwork, something was wrong. And I kept trying to tell her, like, my body was screaming. And I finally listened to it. And it was with self love. And I kind of transformed myself. And this led me onto the journey of, okay, this is my calling. I need to help other women to stop waiting for permission, to start listening to their body and not feel guilty. And then I decided on top of that to create my podcast. So it was like a safe platform where people could talk about these things that we talk about and say, you know, I
Yeah.
want more in life, or I'm scared, or I need
Yeah.
help, or things like that. And then to just motivate them and for them to realize that it's never too late to follow your
Yeah.
dreams.
Right. And so first of all, thank you for sharing, and I want to touch base on what you said, where it's like, for the sake of others. That sentence really stood out for me because isn't it so true that, in all honesty, I feel like it doesn't even matter what gender you are. I feel like for the sake of others, we are so often finding ourselves in positions where it's really never first about us, but it's always about somebody else or somebody else's needs or somebody else's ideas or somebody else's dreams or whatever, where we, and now I really do say it as females, have that automatic nurturing feeling inside of us where we feel like, wow, this is so wonderful. I naturally want to support you. I naturally want to help you grow. I naturally want to do all these things. And then when we now talk about our actual immediate family, like the children that we carried 9 months under our heart, the husband that we love so much, that we created life with, right? Obviously, those humans, besides our, family like mother, father, grandfather, and all those people, you would
Right.
do anything for them. You would jump through loops for them. You would jump through fire for them just for them to be okay. But I feel like when we are unintentionally and unconsciously putting ourselves in this role of the title, I am a wife. And what does that really mean? You know, what does that really actually mean? Because, and now it's like, do I know that this means because I've seen it around me? And this is why I think this is true, because I saw it in my mother and my grandmother and my aunt and my whoever. And now I believe this is true to be for me to sacrifice myself, my time, my inner love, my inner needs? Or is it because I created a vision in my own head, regardless of what had happened around me? Maybe because nobody around me was ever married, and I felt the need of creating something inside of me to prove to myself that
Yeah.
no, this actually does exist, or whatever the case might be, how we got to the actual internal idea of how things should be. Yet, when we are there, and the creation actually had happened, I feel like so often that's when reality really hits, because I think that we shouldn't even create anything like that. I feel like, you know, that staying true to yourself aspect gets so quickly lost. And I don't know how you felt about that when you first got married and you first took on the role of being a wife without being a mom necessarily for, you know, after. But for me, I can say when I got married, you know, I wanted to be the perfect wife. Like I wanted to do all these perfect things. And I created these ideas of like, well, if I do this and this and this, then I am looking to him first, but then also,
Yep.
of course, to the outside as somebody that has it all together. But yet I never once stopped in this moment to actually say, hey, is this exhausting for me to create a menu with 5 choices on daily basis and send this
When you
to a
told
text
that to me,
message?
I was dying.
I'm like,
You know,
you
I
know,
mean, I mean, just to add on to your point, I totally
yeah,
agree with you. And I feel like it's a combination. Like for me personally, I mean, I'm Persian and obviously there's a lot of patriarchy in that culture. And so I did, you know, see that like my mom was always she's providing and nurturing and taking care and all her needs were always put in the back and that's what you did. And it was the same thing as like my grandmother and all the generations, and it was one of those things like, to be a good wife, this is what you do. You sacrifice. To be a good mother, you're silent. You don't talk about yourself. You don't do things for yourself. You just give, give, give. And that was the mental framework. And it's also society. I mean, you see that a lot. I mean, not so much these days, it's gotten better, but I feel like growing up, like the TV shows, you know, all the sitcoms, like everything is about, you know, the perfect little wife with the apron waiting when the husband comes home, you greet them with a drink or whatnot. And I did do all of that. And I was young. It's actually funny when you say this because my daughter will be 20, my oldest, on Monday. And she was basically, she looked at me, she's like, Mom, I'm just thinking, like, were you 2 years older than me when you married dad? That is the most frightening thought. Like, I cannot even manage. Like, if I can manage myself and my own laundry and my own meals, I'm so happy. But to be responsible to take care of a man and like, you know,
yeah,
make meal plans, and it was just and it was like, well, back then I think people got married younger. Yes, I was really young, and but you get trained that way to do things a certain way, and little by little I feel like during that process you lose a little bit of yourself. It's like first it starts with the husband, then it starts with the children, with each child, and it becomes like your real self just gets buried under layers and you don't even remember like, what did I used to like? What did I like to do? What were my
yeah,
dreams? What were my
yeah.
aspirations? So the key point is for us as women, yes, like we do a great job. We really we want to take care of our man, we want to take care of our family, our household, but it's that learning to how to balance not forgetting ourselves and not feeling guilty for
Mm,
remembering ourselves. Those are the
mm,
two things that the battles I think we have constantly.
yeah, I so understand what you're saying, because, you know, again, when you said the sentence of, you know, remembering how I used to be, like, in all honesty, because, you know, my vision was so big in that moment, just wanting to create this perfect life with this human, that I literally never even thought to stop and ask myself. But then it hit me really hard because, you know, when then my son was born and then I dealt with postpartum depression, I feel like so much all of a sudden had hit me. All
Yeah.
of those questions at once, they came all up. For years, they were not irrelevant at all. They were locked away in a closet. They were locked away in my deep unconsciousness that I've never thought to ask of, because I intentionally also trained myself to not even ask those questions because I have the life I always wanted.
Yeah. You
So,
feel guilty, right?
you know,
That guilt.
right. Me to myself, I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you seriously internally so unbalanced and unhappy? And you see, back then, I didn't feel like that we could even be able to differentiate the difference between being unhappy and unbalanced. Because, you know, not even having that correct verbiage of expressing yourself, what is really correctly happening internally with words. That for me was a huge issue, in all honesty, because I didn't learn that from my parents. So for me, it was very, very challenging to literally express how I felt. Now I could show you how I feel, you know, by hugging you and preparing meals and cooking and cleaning and all, and do acts of service, love language.
Right.
But it was so challenging for me to verbally express what was going on in both sides, negative and positive. And so, you know, that part of like, who are you really? And what did you actually used to like before you became the role that you're executing? And I'm not saying that we constantly wear masks, but I feel like I can say this out of my own life, and I don't know if you would agree to that, is that I did have a mask on to myself, at least. You know, I was not honest with myself because the hardest thing for me to even admit was this isn't working for me. I pushed that internal decision so far away from me. I never even wanted to visit the thought, let alone go the steps to execute. It's not working. That was terrifying to me
Yep.
because what would have that meant? And this is really where ego kicks in too. What does that mean to your ego? Does this mean you were wrong? Does that mean your created vision, your dream was nothing but a bubble? Oh my God. And what are you without that bubble? Who are you without the bubble, even? You know, and
Mhm.
so I feel like sometimes we women, we find ourselves in these positions where we do love our family and we would do anything for them. But you know, like you said, that balance. How do you really create that balance? Does it really always need to be that you hit rock bottom to then understand?
Yeah. A lot of times I think that's what it takes. And you know, the other thing I always say, especially as having daughters, is that as a woman, I mean, we have a huge role. It's like our daughters or our nieces or any woman, a young woman that we're making an impact on, they're watching us. So if we're the
Right.
kind of person that says, "Oh, okay, if I, I never take myself as priority. I just let things go. I pretend. I edit myself. I'm a pleaser. I'm not living within my true self." That's what you're modeling, and that's what they're learning. And so it took a while for me to kind of rewire my whole family too, because they were so used to, especially my children, for me being available to them 24 hours a day, Uber driver, meals lined up, everything. And when I started this transformation and I started back into working after being, I worked before the kids and I was a stay-at-home mom the whole time. That was a huge transformation. It was like, oh, wait, mommy is actually a human. Like she has needs and she needs to do things. It was difficult, but I have to say now, after like it's been like what, 3 years or so, they have a different respect for me. They look at me differently. And I feel like I have really impacted, especially my girls, to know better, to do better, to,
Right.
recognize their own needs. And I think I'm a strong woman, but I'm trying to create even stronger daughters. So
Yeah. And also, and I feel like it goes the same way if you have sons, for instance, because now, and I'm going to take the example of when you are staying in a unhealthy situation. That could be anything. It could be a job, it could be a business, it could be a relationship, it could be any it could be a friendship or whatever. Then you're modeling to your son also that this is how it's okay to be treated as a female, because that was my biggest fear. I never wanted to model a household, for instance, or an idea of I'm showing my son that this is okay, that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. No, it wasn't okay, And so for me, it was also important to understand the balance between, yes, I'm a mom to you, but I'm also all the time a human. And because of that, you're learning from me. So I will teach you how maybe it would be correctly to treat me in the situation or to behave in the situation. And I think sometimes when we stay in situations longer that we're meant to be, due to the thinking of, I gotta stay for my kids because I want my kids to grow up with both parents, for instance, but we completely ignore the fact that the dynamic household inside has the biggest impact. Because if, for instance, the couple is not talking to each other because they can't stand each other, and actually they really both need to be separated from each other, yet they stay, that energy, that negativity is
It's not good for
translated
them.
all, no, right, it's
Yeah.
translating all over the household. And so I think it's really tough as a female to make decisions like that, because especially when you're so used to, like you said, you're a home state mom. And I want to, somewhat assume that you were in a sense also, of course, financially dependent on your husband. And so now we have as female a whole nother idea of like, well, how can I break out of that, even though my
Yeah.
inner tells me, for instance, I'm not okay, but how do I manage all of this safety, yet I need to take care of myself too, mentally and emotionally. And I think, that wall that you talked about when you hit, your after your birthday, when you're like, you know what, this isn't working for me. I really just need to take care of me. And for me, it's really interesting to know what were, for instance, routines. And I know you mentioned hot yoga and you mentioned long walks, but like what was really the internal routine in that moment when you then decided to take a walk or to go to your hot yoga class, when really you needed to prepare breakfast, you needed to prepare meals, like that whole, I'm changing the whole game plan here and everybody will be on the same page with me at one point. But how did you cross that bridge of, did you just do it? Or did you had a conversation with everybody? Or how did that, you know, like just for
I
somebody that is maybe in the same position to be like,
yeah.
okay, look, if you find yourself here, this could be an
If you're
idea of
going
how,
crazy and losing your
yeah.
mind, this is what you do. It wasn't easy. I would say the biggest step was I had a lot of quiet moments. I think the number one problem is that we keep ourselves so busy and our household is busy. It's like I have the three kids, a dog. There is just chaos all the time. You're so busy in that autopilot mode of chaos that you don't have time to be like, wait, what is happening? There's something wrong. So when that's why the walks are really important. Walks by yourself where you are actually able to hear yourself, and journaling. I think it started off with that. And then I've been doing a gratitude journal. My gosh, I think now for maybe 8 years. I think probably around this time that when this started. And I am religious about it. Like every morning before I do anything else, I wake up, I have to write 5 things that I'm grateful for from like the night before or from that morning. If I need to write more, I write more, but it just really shifts my mind, and I realize, wait, okay, like it was a bad day, but this happened, and it can be such like random things, just sipping your coffee in peace and
Right.
enjoying the process. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be huge. So once you, and every day is different. So it's not just like I'm grateful for my health. I mean, those things obviously are huge, but it can be little, like the hug that my son gave me this morning before he got on the bus. Like that is just going to make my day for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So the gratitude journal, huge. I always tell everyone, start with this, especially if you're feeling like you're in a really low place. Once you start checking in and seeing all the things that you can be grateful for, that and
Mhm.
how your mood changes, that's huge. Having that quiet time, going for long walks by yourself, listening to your internal voices, because they are telling you, your intuition, where it's going, your chakras, like what is happening, what's feeling wrong in what area. And then taking that first step of figuring out, like, what do you like to do? Like, physical activity is huge. I love hot yoga. I was doing hot yoga way before the children were born. And then I obviously stopped with each pregnancy. And then each time if I went, it was kind of like a privilege if the yoga had babysitting privilege, or not. And it was never like a routine. It was just like, oh, I'll go once a month here, I'll go here, whenever it works out with everyone's schedule. And so then once I became like adamant and consistent and said, okay, this is what I love to do. This is what keeps me, it's like my temple, my spiritual area. I go in there, I do my workout, I release all these toxins, I sweat. I need to do this for me to feel better. And every time I did it, I felt better. So just recognizing what makes you feel better and being consistent and making that commitment to yourself, because we are the first people that our activities, it's like, okay, my friend wants me to meet her, I'm going to meet her. My son needs a dentist appointment, I need to go. But the moment your life gets too busy, it's like you cross off those appointments. I was going to work out today. It's okay, I'll do it tomorrow. I was going to go to bed early today. Oh no, I got to wash the dishes. So it's like we just check off and cross off the things for ourselves. So it's shifting things around and saying, no, I'm going to commit to these 3 things for today, for this week, these obligations, and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to start setting boundaries. And I talked to you about that too. Like, I'm a people pleaser too. I say yes to everyone, from family to friends to everything. I want to keep everybody happy. And as the more I did that, I just feel like the more parts of me I was losing in the process. So now I really try to be a lot more grounded and really think, okay, do I really want to do this? Does this bring me happiness? Does this bring me joy? Am I just doing it out of obligation because I'm afraid someone's going to get mad at me, or am I really want to doing it? So doing things like that, then you start kind of making a list for yourself of how you want to move forward. I think those pieces, and it wasn't easy, it was hard, but you have to be consistent to see that transformation happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like consistency is really big in basically anything, anything in life. I mean, if you're not consistent, you won't get a degree, you won't finish school, you won't start a project, you won't finish it, so consistency, I think, is absolutely imperative. But I also feel like, adding to your point of like really listening to your own self and really making you as a priority first above anything and everything can be so challenging, especially if people around us were so used to us being somebody to them, no matter who we are to them or what we represented to that human. Again, no matter what human, and then breaking out of the norm can really cause a lot of riffles because people would automatically come out of the gate saying, you're so different. What is wrong with you? Are you okay? Like, you never done this before. I don't
Mhm.
understand what you're doing. And then they would get upset or offended or mad or irritated or whatever. And so that led to a whole nother, especially to a person that really doesn't know how to set boundaries just quite, or actually is relearning to set boundaries, can be really challenging and very intimidating because obviously you don't want anybody. I don't think any human in this planet wants somebody to be mad at them on purpose,
No.
but so that's really challenging too, to then just be like, okay, like, I love you, but in a sense, I love me more. And I need to, for me, it's really important right now to go on my walk, even though going with you for, salsa, dip in salsa and chips, or, driving you to your friend or whatever. I understand you need that, but I need this, you know? And I feel like when we are being, in a sense, selfish enough to the respect of being self-loving with each other, for each other. So for me, there's a fine line between being selfish and just loving myself. There's a very
Yeah.
fine line. And, I feel like our birthright is really to allow ourselves also to change and to have a different opinion and to be a different human, even though we haven't been this person for so long, because now we only recognize that this was all a mask. This was all part of the identity that we created. But really now internally, it's like, am I really still wanting to do this? Is this
Right.
actually, alone the fact that you took time to just actually ask yourself, you know what, I'm not going to say yes right away. Give me 10 minutes or give me a half hour, give me a day or whatever. I'll think about it and I'll get back to you. I feel like that already is such a huge accomplishment to somebody that is so used to be always being just such a people pleaser and everything is a yes, instead of then just saying, hey, actually, let me think about that. I really have to see, what's going on, or is it okay if I come back to you tomorrow and let you know? Like just different ideas and different ways of starting to respect self better.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But and I'm also wondering, these ideas of how certain things are or how you become the person that you are. I'm wondering sometimes, is that from the is that from our environment? Is that from people that we lived in a household together, that we observed, our caregivers? Like, where are we actually first forming our actual identity and our actual character? Isn't it so that we so often see others display how they act and we're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to act. Okay, well, I guess that's normal, right? And I think, when you shared with me certain things of how certain things in your family history have been, it was quite like a pattern, like a little pattern of
Yeah.
like, well, it has been that way for so many years. It has been this idea.
Right.
So why would it be so unnormal for me? Because these are
Yeah.
my people. They do this, so if they do it, what's so wrong with me doing it? And I'm just
I,
wondering, go ahead,
I
sorry.
think environmental is huge because I even catch myself like sometimes like doing something, saying something that maybe like I didn't even agree with when my mom said it to me, and I, oh my gosh, I'm saying the same thing, I'm doing the same thing. I know in your situation said, which is interesting to me, that you said that wasn't the fact, the situation. So that's actually really interesting how that works. But you might have subconsciously seen it in a movie or in books or, like these, like, I don't know, Disney, whatever, something that was kind of the blueprint of like,
Right.
what is the perfect wife? What is the perfect mother? Um, but I do believe that either your environment, if you see things done a certain way that you think is the right way, you're going to follow it. Or if you see things done the opposite way, then you want to do the reverse and do the best. Like if you grew up in a household where your mom, never did anything, there was never food in the fridge or whatnot, then you might go to the extreme and be like a Martha Stewart at home to make
Right.
up for those, things that you didn't have as a child. So I think it does. I think definitely environmental is huge in that regards.
Yeah. And it also could go the other way, like for instance, if you're somebody growing up and you never had, like, let's say a dad around, for instance, and now you become a dad, for instance, you could also just go down that pattern of saying, well, my dad was never around. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
My kids are like, I turned out fine. What's going to happen to them? It's no big deal either. I think this is where the power of your own mind is so evident here, that you really are allowed to make your own choices in this lifetime, that you really are the creator of your own life in a sense. I'm not saying that you are the creator who gave life to you. I'm saying that with this life that you have been given, you are really the creator of shaping and forming it exactly how you want. But I think
So true.
right? But so little time we take out to really think and ask, not only ask, what is it really that I want, but also what will be the consequence out of
Hmm.
this want if this really happens? Because, when they say, be careful what you wish for, because when you
Yeah.
get it, you might just, and that for me, there's something really true to that, because for so many years, my only wish was to be creating life with this human. And then when I finally got there, I didn't even think of the consequences that played a role. His family, my family, the distance, culture difference, la 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 la. Like, never once did this cross my mind, because all I was saying is just that. But I feel like, really sitting down with yourself and asking, is this really truly, if this were to happen, what would my life really look like? Like, does
Yeah.
that really make sense for me? Or is it just really something like a subconscious idea of this is how it's supposed to be?
I think asking questions to yourself is so powerful. And you
Yeah.
realistically, I tell this to my clients too, like to see where they're at is like look in that mirror and like see yourself, check in. Like, am I truly happy? Am I living the life that I want? You know, what are
Right.
my values? Or like you're saying, those deeper questions like, well, if I do this, what are the consequences? Or will it really make me happy? Or am I just doing it to please that person? But really checking in and asking those deep questions, then you can really realize where you are at life and really just, it can be simple as, am I really happy? Like, how many
Mm-hmm.
of us do that? Like, really just check in periodically and just say, okay, like, let me look at my life right now, where I am at this age, at this time. Am I really happy? Am I living the life that I thought I would? Am I aligned with myself, with my values? And once you do those very powerful questions, when you get those answers and you get that feeling, then you know, you need to make some changes.
Yeah. And I think, values, like that's such a big word, because sometimes, at least I found myself early on, I didn't even know what my values were. What were those values to me? What is really important to me? What really is it that it's an absolute no-go for me, and here I can compromise, and here I can kind of like, close one eye and kind of in a sort of suck it up. Like, but what really is it? And so I think sometimes it's really challenging to even get that far and that deep before you can even ask deeper questions.
Mhm.
Because, just simply asking, am I really happy? Again, happiness is so many things to so many different people.
Yep.
Some happiness is like, I live in a shed with the love of my life and I really don't care. We have ramen noodles, we're fine, like whatever. We're living off of love and air. But, and to some, it's like, listen, like I'm happy because, I have established myself. This was important for me to make a name for myself, to create a business, to leave something for my children, to create legacy. Like I feel there's so many
Yep.
definitions, but I
Of
feel like,
happiness.
yes, but I feel like for me, honestly, the little things, literally the smallest little things, like you said at the very beginning of the conversation, having a cup of coffee, being even privileged to drink coffee, first of all, just sitting at my kitchen table. Literally, that's how my podcast actually started, in all honesty. It was just me talking what I thought in my head on my laptop, not
I
thinking I'm
love
ever
it.
going to do anything with it. And just looking out that window, seeing this beautiful tree inside in front of me, that was
Yeah.
it for me. That was it for me. Literally, that day of happiness is like, oh my God, how blessed I am to have a safe home, close my door, open my fridge, find something in it, and
Yep.
just sit here and have coffee, and I feel like sometimes these goal makings and driven and like being so, so go-getter is so amazing, but sometimes it can really take away from the actual living life part.
Yep. Being
It's
present, the small
right.
moments.
The being present, isn't it so that sometimes, we're so focused on, I need to get here, and like all this way there is actually what life really is.
Yeah. It's very true. Yeah,
Yeah.
being present. I mean, that's one thing I wish we knew like in our
Same.
20s,
Same.
30s, just
Same.
living. It's like, you're always like, oh, when this happens, I'll be happy. This is now. I mean, that has really changed for me in my 40s, is just living in the moment, being present, enjoying every second. I remember even when went on family vacations, I was always like, oh, when I get back, I have to do this. When I'd be like making my to-do list or like checking things off, bringing my calendar and like worrying about, oh, as soon as we get back, and now it's like, no, like we are here for 2 weeks. We're enjoying each other. We're being mindful. We're being present because I realize that life is really precious and the time that we have together, it doesn't, especially
Yeah.
with the kids growing up so fast and all the other factors that can come through, is like the
Mhm.
time that you have with your loved ones or just even with yourself is
Yeah.
so important.
It's so
You have to
important.
make the best of it.
Yeah, totally. And just really staying in the now too, and I
Mhm.
think it has a little bit of generational idea too, obviously generations that are now in their 40s or 50s or 60s, let's even say, they understand exactly what we're talking about because we didn't have any cell phones growing up. We didn't have all that. For us, it was really like, hey, you want to play, go out, and before the sun goes down, you come home. This was the rule,
Yeah.
And you were perfectly just with that friend or with your friends. And nobody needed social media. Nobody needed TV. This was self-entertainment between people just exchanging ideas and talking and laughing and whatever. And I feel like now we are, in this idea of like, seriously, every single human has a cell phone. And I'm not hating on that. I'm just saying that when we do have that and we are taking time with the people that we really love, at least I think it would be such a wonderful idea in that timeless together to just leave the cell phone away and then be on your cell phone again when you're on your way home or whatever, just that, like you said, being really present, mindfulness.
Yes.
Of
I have a conflict with, like, I have a love and hate relationship with my phone. I really do. Like, it's like, I want to like, I'm like, oh, I want to go on some vacation and they actually like take away the phone. Like they enforce it. Like I want to go to places where I feel such freedom when I don't have it with me or when there's no connection. But at the same time, I mean, it helps so much with work and like, if you need things quickly, you have to purchase something, like it's really helpful. And I understand the efficiency of it. But at the same time, it's so true. I see it in my kids too. It's like they get together and they're on their phone watching other people's TikToks or snapping instead of like hanging out together. And I hate that. I really hate it.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, again, it's a balance, right? It's really all about balance. I feel like balance is in anything in life. It could be indulging into food, into shopping, into, all kind of other stuff. Like it's really about that balance where it's like you are okay to do anything you really want to do, but just in moderation. Like just really moderation, really training yourself of being so conscious enough to really say, actually, me seriously doing the dishes is all I'm going to do right now in this moment. That's how I started to train myself. I would literally consciously, to sound so ridiculous, but really I did it.
Yeah.
Consciously, I would do my dishes.
It's actually relaxing when you actually think about doing it. It can actually be very relaxing, right?
Yeah. And same with everything else. Now I'm really doing my laundry, or now I'm just really, enjoying watching my child play a sport or just watching him play on the playground, like literally consciously just doing one thing at a time in this moment to not really miss out on life. Because, when you said you wish in our 20s and 30s, I so agree with that because I look back on so many amazing things that had happened in my life. And I vaguely remember because I had that mindset of like, well, what's next? And what's next?
Yep.
And
exactly.
I got to do this and I got to do that and da 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 da. And vaguely I remember, the scenery, the beauty, the air, the feeling, how it was. And I really, most of my vivid memories, in all honesty, are from my childhood because I remember how I felt, being for 6 weeks at the ocean, with my parents and eating watermelon and watermelon dropping all over you and you didn't care and, and you washed it off in the ocean and whatever, like those things are just standing out to me. And so I think, when we're consciously also as moms, just bringing that old school way of living back a little bit, at least at home, like make a rule at home. Like, okay, when we're sitting at the table, no cell phones. Nobody's allowed to have a cell phone when we're
that's
having
what we have.
one meal a day. I'm not even saying 3 meals a day because everybody has school and life and practice and no. But like one meal a day when we all get together, no cell phones is just pure interaction. And I think, at least that will help to remain that human connection amongst each other too, because in the end, that's really all that matters, and that's really how people are going to connect with you too. It's through that. It's not through your Instagram. It's not, oh, you have so many followers on this and that. And I'm not saying it's not impressive. I'm just saying you have 1,000 million followers, but who are you as a human? I don't know.
Human connection is key. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah. For sure.
Wow. What a wonderful conversation, Pearl.
Oh, I'm enjoying it just like you. It's amazing.
This is so cool. This was really, really, really amazing. But I did, wanted to touch base on, of course, I know you have your amazing podcast. And if you allow me, I would love to put your podcast link into the show notes so everybody can jump on there and see and get,
Thank you.
free teachings, because every of your guests that you had so far are just so wonderful and they have so many golden nuggets to share. And that's really, what I feel your premise of your podcast is really presenting a platform, free education, free your mind of stuff and just come and join, other people that have similar situations or that have a situation like your sister, like your neighbor, like your whoever,
Yeah.
and so it's wonderful. But also I know that you're coaching personally, right? Like you are a
Yes.
coach for
Yes.
empowerment and women. Would you be okay if we share also like a
Of
link to your
course. Yeah,
calendar?
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, the best thing too is if you want more information, just go on my website. It's femalefluence.com, and it has my podcasts, my coaching services, more
Yeah.
information about me. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll obviously put your website into the show notes too. But so yeah, Pearl, thank you so much for being so transparent and so honest and so kind. I truly appreciate you. I have so much respect for you, and thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. Well, another great one, podcast lovers. Like always, if you have anything to share, if you want to be a guest here and you want to, share something that is on your heart, my red carpet is open for you. And until then, stay rooted, stay grounded, and always stay connected to love, the strongest force in the universe.